this is Miss Rachel with the Otago Prattville Public Library. Today we are making bookshelf dioramas with some cardboard and all sorts of other goodies. So basically it's going to go on your bookshelf with your books and make it look like a little mini scene right inside of your bookshelf. So it should turn out pretty magical. So we're going to take all the elements out of our kit first. We should have some stuffing or fluff. You'll also need some scissors that are not provided. You should have some either craft felt that's a little bit glittery, or you should have a piece of wrapping paper that is white and glittery. You should have your templates printed on vellum. We'll set those aside for a moment. You should have a glue, a little pretend tree, a LED tea light miniature, a little lamp miniature, and a little container full of stars. So first we're going to take our box. Some of the boxes were assembled differently than others. So you may want to make sure that the back of your box from the inside is about as flat as it can be. So to do that, you'll want to make sure that this middle flap on the outside is sticking out. So that's how this one is already configured, so it's ready to go. We'll be setting it up vertically like this in the end, so it'll have the opening facing the front of your bookshelf. And I would like to start for my creation with the background. Now this inner box area looks pretty boxy, and we want to kind of transform that so that it looks a bit more magical. So we're going to use our glue and a healthy dose of it on our craft felt, especially around the edges. So I'm going to do a whole rectangle around the edges of glue, and then a healthy amount of glue in the middle as well, just kind of zigzagging back and forth. If you have hot glue at home, that would probably work even better. You can absolutely use that instead or in addition to the glue that we're using today that is provided in the kit. Perfect, so I've got my felt all gluey, and I'm going to carefully tuck it into my box. I'm gonna make it so that the bottom of the box is the part with the hole here. So I'm gonna line it up with the top of the inside of the box and just very carefully kind of tuck him in so that he covers the back. The felt wants to cover the top and the back of the inside of the box. Now, the felt pieces aren't long enough to cover the entire back inside of the box, and that's okay because we'll be using the fluff to cover up some of the bottom. So I'm just pressing this down right now to let the glue adhere. There we go. That looks a little bit better. I'm happy with that. So the next step is going to be to cut out the elements we want out of our vellum. So this is kind of a see-through-ish paper that your templates have been printed on. And you can choose between the Castle from Narnia and Mr. Tumnus or Mr. Tumnus and Lucy, or you can do a Hogwarts one. You've got the train, the castle from Hogwarts, Harry flying on his broomstick, a dragon, and a train track. You can use the train and the train track for both. You can mix and match. Whatever sounds good to you is a-okay. So I'm going to begin by cutting out my train. And you want to get fairly close to the edge of the design here so that it really looks like it's popping straight out from the diorama. But if you don't have time to cut it out precisely, that's okay too, because like I said, this paper is a little bit more see-through than regular printer paper, so the light will shine through it beautifully no matter what. So I'm going to continue cutting out my elements, and I'll be back in just a second to show you how to assemble. Okay, so we've got all of our pieces cut out, and now we're going to think about how we want to arrange them. I'm going to start with my castle because it's, as you can see, a little bit smaller than the train, so we want to put that in the background as opposed to the foreground. So you kind of want to think about the perspective so that you don't have the smallest elements up front. So I'm going to use a little bit of the same gel glue, and I'm going to try and keep my glue where the ink is, just so it doesn't show up too much through this clear vellum. And I'm going to glue my castle about in the middle from the top, in the very, very back of our box here, right on top of the phones. And I'm going to go ahead and press that down. Very good. And then I'm going to go ahead and add Harry and the Dragon on that back layer, right on top of the felt as well, right on the very back. So Harry's going to be flying here, I think. In there with his firebolt. And the dragon will be looking ready to pounce from the very top of the screen. Awesome. So now we can start assembling the rest of our elements. Now my recommendation would be to put your LED in next, because this requires a little bit of finagling. So we're going to take the bottom portion of your box and lift that second flap up to open it. We're going to take your LED and position it. Now this is where, if you have hot glue, it can really come in handy to position it correctly. You want to put your LED over the hole in the interior of the box so that the switch is accessible through the hole. Once you have that positioned and glued down with some hot glue, you can take this flap again and reposition it back over and fold it back down. Now you'll notice it doesn't go all the way back in the slot where it originally was, and that's okay because it creates a little bit of a natural hill here, and that will make our scenery look even more dimensional. So we've got our LED installed, and now we're going to start placing some of our fluff and some of our other design elements. Now, you may want to do your stars at this point, now that you've got your LED and your background done. I'm not going to actually use my stars because it just takes a little bit too long for me to get them all situated. You want to place them kind of individually. But if you do decide to use the stars, now is a good time to do that. And I'm going to take about half of the fluff, maybe 2/3 of the fluff. This fluff is a little bit thicker than my other chunk that I've got. And I'm going to stick it back behind the LED, behind the flame of the LED candle, and let it kind of fluff up towards the castle so that the bottom edge of the castle isn't really visible. It looks like there's some fog reaching up towards it. That looks great. So now we're going to take the rest of our fluff and put it in the foreground in front of the LED. And just kind of tuck it in there. You can use some glue to secure it if you want, but that's optional. And this one's going to be a little bit shorter towards the bottom of the box as opposed to the foggy one that we put in before that's creeping up a little bit. Now I'm going to secure my lamp by putting some glue on the bottom edge. I'm putting more glue than I probably need just to be sure that it drips down and secures it nicely. And we're gonna stick that lamp post right up front here. Actually, I'm gonna scoot him back a little bit so that the angle is correct, so that the lamppost looks like it's level. And then I'll arrange my fluff around it so that it still looks like it's emerging from the fog. There we go. Oh, oops. Spun my whole box around. Okay, let's let this sit for a moment. Let it set while I'm gluing it. There we go. This is what we've got so far. It's looking good. And next we're going to add our train, or our tree. I think I'll do the tree next. So same basic concept as the lamp post. We're going to want to put a little bit of glue on the bottom. If you're using this blue gel glue, use a lot. If you're using the hot glue gun, just a dab will do. And I'm going to stick him a little bit further in the background. There we go. If you have more trees or decorations that you want to use, you can absolutely make this project much more customized. You can make it your own and really play around with different elements and different ways of getting creative. I'm just rearranging a little bit as I go and pressing down pretty regularly to make sure that everything is staying put. And now for me, the final touch, more or less, will be the train. So I'm going to do a teeny bit of glue. Even if you're using this blue glue, just do a little line of glue at the bottom of the wider part of the train tracks and let that extend to the front, the very, very foreground of your design. There we go. I'm going to let that dry for a moment. So that's just hanging out right there. And the other end is just kind of poking out for a moment. We're going to arrange that in a second once this gets a chance to dry a little bit. And then once that dries a little bit, we'll tuck this back in further in to where the stuffing is, and we'll arrange our train behind it, and you can kind of bend your train a little bit to help it naturally contour along with the tracks. And then you can put your train along the tracks and it'll look like it's coming straight towards you. It'll be really neat. So I think that gave that enough time to just get a little bit more tacky so it'll stay put. And so I'm going to do a teeny bit of glue on the other skinny end of the train tracks, and I'm going to use that to anchor that end back deep into the fluff, and I want it to kind of appear to be disappearing into the fog. So I'm going to hold my bottom down and really kind of tuck that top skinny part in to the fluff to where it kind of disappears. And I'm trying to keep the bottom of the tracks where the base, the wide base is, I'm trying to keep that lined up and perpendicular with the kind of opening of the box, just so it looks nice and tidy. My lamppost keeps falling. Now you can also, like I said, if you have hot glue, the hot glue will help prevent the lamppost from falling all the time. You could also use a paper clip or something like that to kind of help prop your lamppost up and make sure that he is perpendicular to the ground. Okay, for our final touch, we're gonna add our train right in the center. And I'm gonna put, again, my glue over the inky part of the back of our design. And then we can put our glue away if this sticks. And go ahead and just tuck him right behind the tracks. Now, I think I might put him between the two pieces of fluff as well, because then it can kind of create the illusion that the track weaves in and out of the fog. So I'm putting him a little bit more in the background, the train, a little bit more in the background, behind the tree and the lamppost, and behind most of the fluff tips in the front, but not all of it. I've got it kind of wedged between the two clouds of fluff. Okay, so now I've explained it. Let's see if we can take a look at it and see what you all think. Here is my Harry Potter diorama, or my bookshelf, to help decorate it and make it look super cool. I'm going to add a picture at the end of this video of what it looks like when it's all lit up and in its full glory, and I hope you guys enjoyed crafting with me. Have a lovely day. Bye.